So, recently I got a personal message from Paul on Twitter, and he said, "Hey Michael, hope everything is dandy. I could use a parachute host. It's been a while. Feel like doing a video for us?" And I was just, yay! You know, I thought maybe I'd become this caustic entity on YouTube that nobody wanted to hang out with, and I was never going to have another chance to parachute host on The Breakfast Club. And then they brought in Brock Lawley, and I was like, well, maybe I have a chance. Maybe there's still a chance. And it happened, yes. And then I go on to read, the topic is necrophilia, brought up by JJ Talks for this week's Round Robin. Still yay, still yay. I can do this. Challenge accepted. Okay? Oh, wow. So, recently, I did a hangout that I ended up privating. And in that hangout, I was actually trying to do a bit of commentary on YouTube culture in the present. And it was basically, I was trying to make the most outlandish clickbait video hangout. And I made it Zoophilia Smash or Pass. And in that hangout, I was taking suggestions from all of the viewers as far as what sort of animals I should either smash or pass, because this is a recent YouTube trend, smash or pass. And I was just trying to take it to the next level and be absurd with it, and it actually turned into like a discussion, and it went off topic, and it wasn't the art piece that I intended. And I decided, you know, maybe this isn't the kind of video I would want representing me if somebody were to get a hold of this and take it out of context, because I wouldn't actually want to bring a whale into my sex life and have sex on the back of the whale with another person, you know, as it's cruising down the ocean. That was just me being absurd, you know. But when I saw that Serious Mind had ducked out of this conversation, I felt like, you know, maybe he feels, you know, as he shows on its face, that there are better things to talk about and more interesting things. But actually, maybe it's that he's kind of a dignified man and a business owner, and it's not really something you want to do, putting these little conversations out there with strange topics, unless you're going to be like dripping with sarcasm so that anyone could tell that you were making a joke or talking about it clinically. And I'm going to go ahead and go talk about this clinically now, because I realize what happens when you fail at filling the entire video with sarcasm so that anyone who was getting the video out of context wouldn't, you know, be, you know, spoiled for you to have a job interview with them, per se. You know, that's the kind of fear that you can have these days when you're making YouTube videos. So the first time that I in my life came across the topic of necrophilia was through one of my favorite metal bands, Tool. And I was in high school when this came out, but this is the liner notes to the Tool album Opiate, right? And they didn't put the lyrics to their songs inside, but they put this nice photo collage here, right? And in the photo collage, back in the day when you know, music had stuff that you could touch, you know, and pictures to see, and not just downloads and put onto your iPod, you know. Back in the day, this is the kind of art that went along with the music, okay? Here's this photo collage, right? These little photos and Polaroids here. But the interesting one for this conversation is actually in the middle. And that is what seems to be a dude humping a corpse, right? Now, this started a lot of conversations, and if Snopes were around back in the day when I was in high school, they would have been all over this shit, because the story that went around my high school was that Maynard, the lead singer, was the one humping the corpse, and that he spent time in jail for humping a corpse, or like taking a picture looking like he was humping a corpse, and taking the picture, for shits and giggles. But that wasn't the case. Debunked. What it actually is the guitarist Adam has a best friend, Kevin, and that's why the picture is labeled Kev. It's Kev, and it's basically a funny blackmail photo, but it is not a real cadaver there that I just showed on the Breakfast Club. That was actually a prop from the studio that put together scenes for the Predator movies and the Terminator 2 movies. So Adam, the guitarist for Tool, he worked for that studio, and that's where they were able to stage that photo. And movies like that have burned up, corpses all around, so they were plentiful. So that was my first run-in with the topic of necrophilia. If I'm going to respond to all the other Breakfast Clubbers that have already chimed in on this, Sister Danger and JJ, who brought it up, and Sword Sage, the one thing that I find that it stands out to me from my perspective, being so knee-deep into psychotherapy at my job all the time, and I can't really separate my brain from it all the time. We're not talking about necrophilia separated from the act. For instance, if I were to say that there is a possibility that a pedophile did not act on his urges and did not become a child molester, it is also the case that a person who has necrophilia does not act on their urges and fuck a corpse. And I find that just like pedophilia and ephebophilia, there is a lot of pop culture in America, and all around the world probably, that has to do with necrophilia, that people just don't recognize it for what it is. Kind of like how men want the models in their magazines to be clean-shaven on their legs because men like young-looking women, And as soon as an actress hits around 24, 25, she's no longer viable in Hollywood. Things like that. But also, if I'm talking about necrophilia in particular, I would say vampire movies. There's a lot of them, right? Take your pick. But vampires, you could call them undead, but these entities had to die. They come back, and they're like animated, and aspects of them are dead, right? And then they have love stories in the movies all the time, right? They have broken the plane of being dead. And people are okay with this happening. And they don't think of it as being necrophilia, right? Another example I would have for you all, I'm not going to say the channel's name because he's already gotten enough shit from a lot of people who've spread around this guy as a lolcow. But there is a YouTuber who was using his sex dolls as basically ventriloquist dolls, and really got into the role-playing with his sex dolls. And a couple months ago, he was really ridiculed, and he was stalked on YouTube so much that at one point he got frustrated and he tore up his sex doll that he had been role-playing with in a really creepy, strange way, where actually thought maybe he had like a split personality, and he was, using half of his brain for this sex doll when he was using it, and having conversations. And he would say that, yeah, they had a regular relationship, they were going to get married, all sorts of stuff. And then one day he decided to go ape shit on this sex doll and rip it up. And one of his subscribers decided to buy him another one after he tore up the first one. And the conjecture around many of the people who were using this as a lolcow moment on things like Kiwi Farms and 4chan, they were thinking, if this guy runs out of sex dolls, maybe he might think of creating one. Some of the other Breakfast Clubbers were saying, outside of morality of somebody maybe actually seeing their dead selves from heaven being used as a sex toy, there should be nothing wrong with using a dead inanimate object. But here's the thing: if someone's got bodies that they're using as sex toys, bro, where'd you get the bodies? They're not in plentiful supply. They're all spoken for. People have wills saying bury me. They have loved ones who have their wishes. There's laws about this shit. How would people come across these dead bodies to use other than the logical conclusion? They created the dead body by murdering someone. We're deep down this rabbit hole, huh? But really, I think sex dolls, in and of themselves, being inanimate objects, dead, are about the closest thing that we have to necrophilia that would be done with a human corpse. And I imagine you could actually have, if you had a loved one that died, you could have their ashes put inside the sex doll, if that made you feel closer to that person. Speaking of the people who are bereaving, if we're going to separate the act of sex with dead person from the desire to have sex with dead person, wouldn't we have to consider, if just the desire was enough to have necrophilia, that anyone who was bereaving their spouse, and they wanted their spouse to still be alive, if they were to say get a miracle wish granted, and they got one day alone with their loved one, what do you think they'd be doing? They'd be fucking break out the fucking cocoa butter. They'd be fucking, right? If you got one more day, and it's your one more day with that loved one come back from the dead, you're gonna be fucking, right? Tell me I'm wrong. So is that person who would desire to have that one last kiss? That's not a Pearl Jam reference, by the way. The person who wants that one last chance to have their loved one be there, and maybe they can't even throw away that person's pillow, and they kind of dress it in the clothes of their dead loved one. I've seen this happen before. I've seen people create scarecrows of their dead loved ones. It's a thing. It's a thing. And people will sleep next to pillows with shirts, covering them, shirts with pillows stuffed in. It happens. Are those people necrophiliacs? If we're to look at it as like not just something that's connected to actually doing it. Are Twilight fans, are the people who watch Twilight, are they necrophiliacs? If they enjoy the movie and they think that they want to be Bella. And are the ones who would want the Bella character to get with the werewolf, are those fans of bestiality, or, as Greta Christina put it, zoophilia, on that video on my channel that still gives me creeps when she defended that position. Yeah, I can't wait to see this one get wrapped up. Good luck, JJ.